Every once in a while, something from the past resurfaces and takes you right back to a moment you thought you'd forgotten. Recently, I came across a story about a long-lost promotional trailer created exclusively for the IMAX release of Star Wars: Attack of the Clones in 2002. For years, fans believed it had disappeared. Then, more than 2 decades later, it resurfaced. When I read about it, one thought immediately came to my mind. Wait, I was there. Not because I remember the trailer. Honestly, I don't. But because in November of 2002, I took my 6-year-old son to the IMAX theater at the Palisades Center in West Nyack, New York, to see Attack of the Clones. It was his very first Star Wars movie on the big screen. And that I will never forget. Today isn't just about the recently discovered piece of Star Wars history. It's about how one news story brought back one of my favorite memories. Recently, reports began circulating that an IMAX-exclusive promotional trailer for Attack of the Clones had finally resurfaced. From everything that I read, it was created specifically for audiences seeing the movie in IMAX and was never widely released afterward. It didn't make its way to home video. It wasn't something fans could watch easily online. For years, it had become one of those "did this really exist?" pieces of Star Wars history. Then, someone found it. As I read the story, I realized something. My son and I had been sitting in one of the theaters where that trailer played, and I have absolutely no memory of it. What I do remember is so much better. I remember making the trip to the Palisades Center, walking into that giant IMAX theater, buying popcorn, finding our seats, looking over at my son who is 6 years old and about to experience his very first Star Wars movie. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, sharing that moment with him was something I had looked forward to for years. Then, when the lights dimmed, the Lucasfilm logo appeared, and John Williams' music score filled the theater, I wasn't thinking about movie history. I wasn't thinking about IMAX technology. I was watching my son discover Star Wars on the biggest screen either of us had ever seen. That's the memory that stayed with me. It's funny how a memory works. Sometimes the little details disappear. Apparently, there was a unique IMAX trailer shown before the movie. I don't remember it, but I remember how that day felt. I remember hearing the audience react. I remember seeing my son's excitement. I remember leaving the theater talking about Jedi, clones, lightsabers, and everything we just watched. Looking back now, it's pretty amazing to realize we were part of a small group of audience members who experienced that special IMAX presentation. At the time, it was just another day at the movies. Today, it's a little piece of Star Wars history. One of the things I love about stories like this is that they remind us movies aren't just what's on the screen. They're where we were, who we were with, the conversations afterwards, the excitement on the drive home. A rediscovered Star Wars trailer didn't unlock a forgotten memory for me. It reminded me of something much more valuable. The day I got to introduce my son to Star Wars on the big screen. I'd love to hear your story if you have it. What was the first Star Wars movie you ever saw in a theater? Did you take your kids? Did your parents take you? And if you happened to be at one of those IMAX showings back in 2002, Do you remember the trailer? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time, whatever you love, geek about it.